right, so today we're going to dive into a case that I think has really stuck with a lot of people.
Yeah,
And it's the death of Kendrick Johnson.
it's a tough one.
It really is.
Yeah.
And Kendrick, just to give everybody a little background, was a 17-year-old student and athlete at Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia, back in January of 2013.
Mm-hmm.
He was found dead inside a rolled-up gym mat at the school.
Yeah, this is one of those cases that just sort of gets under your skin and stays with you.
Visual, right? You can just picture it. It's just, ugh.
Yeah, and there's just so many questions surrounding the circumstances of his death that it's really hard to shake.
It's really hard to shake.
Yeah.
So initially, the authorities ruled his death an accident and said it was positional asphyxia.
Right.
Now, for those of us maybe don't know what that is, can you just briefly?
Yeah, so positional asphyxia basically means that his body was in a position that prevented him from breathing properly.
Yep.
So in this case, the theory was that he was trying to get a shoe that had fallen into the mat.
Okay.
And he got trapped. And his own body weight restricted his breathing, and that led to suffocation.
So essentially, they're saying he got stuck and suffocated.
Yeah, that's the simplest way to put it.
Okay.
But, there are always questions.
Of course, because it's like, okay, a shoe, like what?
Yeah, and that's where the family comes in.
Right.
Kendrick's family never believed that explanation.
Yeah.
They just didn't buy it.
Especially, you see photos right of his face, and there's bruising, and there are things that don't add up.
Exactly. There were injuries that weren't really addressed in the initial investigation, like you said, the bruising.
Right.
And other things that just didn't seem consistent with the official story.
Yeah, you would think if he was just reaching for a shoe and got stuck, like,
Right.
why are there all these other injuries?
Right, exactly.
So the family, they were like, we're not buying this, and they commissioned an independent autopsy.
Yeah, they wanted a second opinion, which is understandable.
Totally understandable.
Especially given the circumstances.
Right, you have to know for sure.
Absolutely.
And so this is where it gets, like, super interesting.
Yeah.
Because that independent autopsy found something completely different.
Completely different.
They said it wasn't positional asphyxia at all. It was blunt force trauma.
Yeah, so now you have two completely different explanations for how this young man died.
Yeah, so blunt force trauma means...
Blunt force trauma means he was hit with something or...
Forcefully.
Yeah, some kind of force was applied to his body that caused the fatal injuries.
Okay, so this isn't just like, oh, he bumped his head. This is
No, this is serious.
This is serious, right?
Yeah.
So that really throws a wrench into the whole thing.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's what fueled a lot of the speculation and the family's continued fight for justice.
So that kind of takes us to the next point, right? Like,
Yeah.
the family obviously was not going to let this go.
No, absolutely not.
And they felt like evidence had been overlooked.
Yeah, they were very vocal about their concerns, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
You have two completely different autopsy reports, and that's a huge red flag.
Right. And they went all out, right? They filed multiple lawsuits. They pushed for new investigations.
They held press conferences.
They held marches.
They did everything they could to keep Kendrick's story alive.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I can't imagine being in their position.
It's just unimaginable.
And feeling like you're not being heard.
Exactly.
Like something happened to my child and nobody's listening.
It's heartbreaking.
So it went back and forth, right?
Yeah.
In 2021, the Lowndes County Sheriff, reopened the case.
Yeah, which gave the family and a lot of people who'd been following the case some hope.
Yeah, there's some hope there.
Maybe we'll finally get some answers.
Yeah, after all this time.
Yeah, but unfortunately, in 2022, the case was closed again.
Of course.
With no new charges filed.
So another devastating blow for the family.
It was...
Who'd already been through so much.
Yeah, they'd been fighting for years at that point.
Years, yeah.
And to have it closed again with no resolution, it's just awful.
So where do things stand as of right now?
As of August 2024, technically the investigation is still ongoing, but there haven't been any major updates or anything made public.
So it's just kind of like...
It's kind of in limbo.
Limbo.
Yeah.
So we've got these conflicting reports, the family's fighting for justice, and the investigation's just stalled.
Right.
So what does this all mean? What does it mean for the family?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But it raises so many questions about our justice system.
Right.
What does it mean when there's this much doubt?
Right. Like, what does closure even look like in a situation like this?
That's the question, isn't it? What would bring the family peace?
I don't know.
And what does it tell us about how we handle cases with conflicting evidence?
Yeah, it's really, it makes you think.
It does.
What would you need to see to feel confident about the truth?
That's a question for everyone listening, I think.
Yeah.
What would it take for you to say, okay, I understand what happened here?
It's a tough one,
Yeah, it is.
but it's an important one.
Absolutely.
All right, well,
Yeah.
on that note,
We'll leave you with that.
that's our deep dive into the Kendrick Johnson case.
A case that continues to raise more questions than answers.
And hopefully someday we'll have those answers.
Hope.
Until then, keep searching for the truth.
Always.